A cold Indiana morning. The kind that settles into your bones before the sun rises high enough to chase it off. The frost clung stubbornly to the edges of the windshield as Sergeant Janelle Thomas stepped out of her green 2013 Subaru Forester. Her boots hit the concrete with a muffled thud, solid, purposeful. Fatigues pressed sharply. Ranks stitched proud. Name patch clean. She was regal from collar to cuff, and it showed. She pulled the collar of her fleece-lined army jacket higher against the sting of February air. Elm Avenue, on the east side of Maple Grove, was still quiet. Storefronts closed, traffic minimal, a strip of silence before the small city shook itself awake. The jet fuel station glowed under flickering sodium lights, its sign buzzed a dull amber hum. 2 pumps were out of order, another wrapped in yellow tape. Her car rolled up to the only working one. No music played, no rush. Just routine. She inserted her debit card, punched in her zip code, selected regular unleaded, and slid the nozzle into the tank. Her duffel bag sat upright in the back seat, packed the night before. Cold weather gear, field gloves, inspection folder. 12 years in the reserve. Drill weekends didn't faze her. They were rhythm, not ritual. She chewed slowly on a protein bar, standing still as the pump clicked into motion. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. Be safe today. Call me after duty. Janelle smiled, tapping out a quick reply with her thumb. Always do. Love you. The nozzle clicked, tank full. She moved to hang it up. That's when she heard the tires. A white Chevy Tahoe coasted in, slow but deliberate, pulling to the adjacent pump 2 stalls over. It stopped clean. No engine roar. No sirens, just presence. Inside the vehicle sat 2 white officers. One, mid-20s, buzz cut, posture straight, full of something unspoken. The other, older, heavier. Arms folded low, face obscured behind mirrored aviators. Janelle didn't notice them right away. She was mid-bite with a protein bar in hand, capping her tank, but they noticed her. The younger officer leaned forward and pointed. Said something behind the windshield. The older man didn't respond at first, just shrugged like he was watching weather roll in. She felt the shift before she heard the words. That tightening in the gut, that sixth sense that drills and deployments couldn't quite explain. The younger officer stepped out, adjusting his vest. Hey, excuse me, ma'am. She turned, calm but alert. Yes, officer? His tone hardened. Mind stepping away from the vehicle? There was no aggression in her body language, no sudden moves, just confusion. A brief narrowing of her brow. Is something wrong? She asked. The wind carried the question away too quickly. His eyes didn't soften. His hand hovered just near his belt, not on the weapon, not yet, but close enough to remind her. His voice cut in again, sharper now. Now, step away from the car. Her shoulders stiffened, not in defiance but in disbelief. Something was coming. She could feel it, cut to black. Janelle didn't argue. She simply stepped back from her Subaru, her hands visible and her posture neutral. Calm, controlled. She moved like someone who'd spent over a decade being trained to de-escalate, not provoke. The gravel beneath her boots cracked softly as she shifted her stance. The younger officer approached first. His nameplate read Cox, though his jacket was zipped high enough to nearly obscure it. His jaw was tight. His walk wasn't aggressive, but it wasn't casual either. He stopped just short of her, scanning her uniform without acknowledgement. You got ID on you? Janelle nodded, slow and measured. Yes, sir. I'm headed to Fort Dixon, weekend drill. She reached into her chest pocket deliberately, holding up her military ID in one hand, driver's license in the other. Both steady. Both valid, both ignored. Cox barely glanced at them. His eyes flicked to the card for a heartbeat before returning to her face. No reaction, no recognition. "This uniform isn't a costume," Janelle said quietly. He tilted his head. "Who said it was?" he snapped. From 2 steps behind, the older officer, Radley, if her memory for faces and insignia served her right, remained silent, arms crossed. Sunglasses mirrored the cold daylight. Not a single word spoken, not a single gesture to mediate. Cox shifted forward. "We got a call," he muttered. "Someone loitering." "Suspicious activity. We're just doing our job." Janelle didn't move, didn't blink. "You think I'm impersonating military personnel?" He didn't answer, just stared. Then the voice changed, became something rigid, performative. "Turn around," she blinked. "Excuse me?" "Turn around. Hands behind your back." "Are you detaining me?" Her voice stayed flat, military calm. The kind of calm that doesn't come easily unless you've trained for chaos. Cox stepped closer. His hand was now firmly near his belt. "Ma'am, I'm giving you a lawful command. Turn around." Still no word from Radley. Janelle's jaw clenched. She looked toward the older man, searching for a reason. A signal. A sign that this wasn't going to spiral. Nothing, just a slight nod, not sympathetic, just compliant. She turned, slowly, gritting her teeth. "This is a mistake," she said as her hands moved behind her back. "And it's going to cost you." The cuffs clicked, metal too tight on her wrists. Deliberate. No need for force, and yet it was applied anyway. She didn't resist, didn't flinch. But her breath caught, just once, between the second and third ratchet. From across the lot, a voice rang out. "Yo, what's she even doing? That's a soldier!" Another. "She's in uniform, man. Are you serious right now?" Cox turned his head, annoyed. "Back off." The bystanders didn't move. A couple held up phones now, red record buttons glowing like signals. The scene had shifted. Power was no longer one-sided. Witnesses had arrived, but Janelle wasn't focused on them. She was already thinking about her next move. About whom to call, about how fast she needed to act, about how many times she'd seen others not make it this far. In the back of the police cruiser, the vinyl seat waited like a cold insult. But she sat tall, spine straight, jaw tight. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Silence is strategy. Stillness is survival. But the right voice can move systems. The cruiser door slammed shut with the finality of a verdict. Vinyl seats creaked beneath Janelle as she shifted upright, wrists cuffed tight behind her back. The chill from the plastic seeped through her uniform, but she barely noticed. Her eyes locked forward, unmoving. Outside, Officer Cox paced. Loud, defensive. Inside, Janelle didn't breathe hard. She calculated. Her name tag, Thomas, was twisted sideways from where they'd grabbed her. She stared at its edge, then lifted her chin toward the plexiglass barrier. "I want to call my commanding officer." No answer. She said it again, firmer. "Under Article 31 and DoD policy, I have the right to notify my unit." Immediately. Officer Radley sat in the front seat, still expressionless, still quiet. He muttered under his breath, "Make it quick." He reached over and dropped her phone onto the seat beside her, without unlocking the cuffs. Janelle twisted, maneuvering awkwardly. Her thumb bent at an impossible angle as she tapped twice. Screen unlocked. One swipe. Favorites list. One name. C.O.L. D. Ramsey. She hit the call. It rang once, then twice. "Thomas?" His voice was alert. Direct. The kind of voice that made junior officers stand straight without realizing it. "Colonel, I'm cuffed." In the back of a cruiser. Maple Grove, jet fuel station. 2 officers. They claim I'm impersonating the military. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. There was a pause, just enough to feel the weight. Badge names? No IDs shown. White Tahoe, 2 white males. Elm and 9th Street. Another pause. 5 minutes out. Keep the line open. The call didn't end. The line didn't go dead. Colonel David Ramsey wasn't just a ranking officer. He was a mover, a builder of bridges, and when necessary, a breaker of walls. Former infantry, now logistics command. He'd read enough reports to know how stories like this ended when no one watched. Coffee was forgotten on his desk, and he swung into action. Car keys, Bluetooth engaged. Dispatch, this is Colonel Ramsey, 3rd Logistics Command, Fort Dixon. I need confirmation of officer activity at jet fuel on Elm. Now. The reply crackled. Sir, we don't normally release. This isn't normal. You've got 90 seconds. Next call. Maple Grove City Council liaison, then traffic cams, then civilian oversight. Back in the cruiser, Janelle stared straight ahead. The line was still open. She could hear Ramsey's voice, calm, but slicing through red tape like wire through cloth. Outside, Cox was visibly unsettled now. His steps weren't as sure. He kept glancing at her car. At the bystanders, at the phones. A woman in scrubs shouted, "She's in uniform." "This is wrong." Inside, Radley glanced at Janelle in the rearview mirror. "Who was that? Your lawyer?" She didn't answer. Outside, Cox pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, we've got escalating civilian interference. Requesting backup." Janelle smiled. Just barely. Backup for what? One woman, handcuffed and calm. She didn't say it aloud, but Ramsey's voice came through the earpiece again, steady as ever. "You still with me?" "I'm here. Don't move. Don't speak." "Let them bury themselves." Janelle nodded once, just enough to feel it in her spine. The first domino had fallen. The tweet was 90 seconds long. No caption, no hashtags, just footage. A black woman in camo. Calm. Composed. Explaining. 2 white officers. Dismissive. One of them, young, tight-jawed, twisting her arm and cuffing her across the hood of her own car. The uniform was unmistakable. So was the indifference. By the 6th retweet, local journalists had it. By the 60th, producers in Columbus flagged it during their morning scan. "Get someone down there," a young editor barked. "Military woman cuffed in uniform, gas station. It's blowing up." Back at jet fuel, the air had changed. The side street buzzed with cars slowing down, people recording, and some shouting. The woman in scrubs, Patrice, someone yelled, was giving a full play-by-play to her phone camera. Others gathered along the sidewalk. It wasn't a crowd yet, but it was building like one. Officer Cox was pacing again. This time his radio didn't offer relief. "It's already on Facebook," he muttered to his partner. Radley didn't respond. Inside the cruiser, Janelle sat still. Her wrists throbbed beneath the cuffs, but she didn't shift. She didn't speak. The phone in her lap was still connected. Ramsey hadn't hung up. "I said 5 minutes," his voice reminded her. "I hear you," she answered. Cox leaned toward the cruiser window, voice defensive now. "Who's Byron? Your boyfriend?" Janelle raised an eyebrow. "Try Colonel David Ramsey." "Fort Dixon, 3rd Battalion Logistics." She paused, then added with precision, "You're about to learn his name real well." That hit different. Cox stepped back. At that exact moment, a new black SUV pulled into the gas station. No flashing lights, no sirens. But presence. Out stepped a black man in his mid-40s, police lieutenant's insignia on his chest. Close-cropped hair, pressed uniform, unreadable expression. He didn't go to the crowd. He went straight to the cruiser, knocked on the window. "Sergeant Thomas?" Janelle turned, blinked once. "Yes. I've been in contact with Colonel Ramsey. I've reviewed the footage. Real time, multiple angles. We're correcting this now." He opened the door himself. No dramatics. No posturing. Just the quiet movement of a man aware that the damage had already been done. He uncuffed her gently, careful not to make eye contact unless invited. As he finished, he straightened and offered the words he was told to say. "On behalf of this department, I apologize." Janelle didn't flinch. She rubbed her wrists. Then she looked him in the eye. Not with anger, not with fear, but something harder to swallow, certainty. "You're not sorry," she said evenly. "You're just caught." Around them, silence rippled out. Cameras still rolled. And in that quiet space, the truth began to spread. Not because someone shouted, but because someone finally listened. Colonel David Ramsey didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He sent an email. It included 3 video files. A bystander's clip, clear and steady. A second angle from the nurse's phone, audio sharp. And most damning of all, body cam footage from Officer Cox's vest, quietly acquired through unofficial channels. Subject line: Incident at jet fuel. Immediate oversight required. Recipients: City Attorney, Military Liaison, Civilian Review Board. Police Oversight Office. Attached to the email was a single line: "This isn't just a mistake, it's a mirror." Within hours, the footage spread. Media outlets clipped it, reframed it, and looped it with commentary. A black woman. In uniform. Calm. Identified herself. Presented valid credentials. Cuffed anyway. The comment sections ignited. Even in uniform were suspect. How do you explain away the video? You can't. This is why we say it's systemic, because it is. By that evening, Officers Martin Cox and Peter Radley were placed on administrative leave. Internal memos leaked. Phrases like protocol violations and failure to de-escalate floated through local news tickers. Behind the closed doors of the Maple Grove Police Department, meetings stretched late into the night. PR teams drafted possible statements. The police chief rejected each one. Too weak. Too late. "We need to wait until things cool down." But they weren't cooling. They were catching. Janelle Thomas sat on her couch in silence. Same uniform, same boots, still folded neatly by the door. Her phone buzzed constantly. Reporters, activists, national media outlets. Her name was trending on 3 platforms. She didn't answer any of them. Not because she didn't care, because she did. She hadn't asked for a spotlight. She hadn't made a speech. She hadn't even raised her voice. She got gas. She showed ID. She got cuffed. And now suddenly, she was a headline. She wasn't interested in becoming anyone's symbol. She didn't need applause. She wanted accountability. Quiet, clear, unflinching. Colonel Ramsey called later that night. "You sure you don't want to put out a statement?" She looked out the window. The neighborhood was still. Her Subaru sat in the driveway, her duffel bag untouched in the back seat. "No," she said finally. "The footage speaks louder." There was a pause. "They're going to spin it," Ramsey said. "Say you escalated. Say you were confrontational." Janelle exhaled. "Let them." She said it with the kind of certainty that silences rooms. Because she knew. There was nothing louder than the quiet truth, caught on camera, watched by millions. The department could draft statements, the city could delay decisions, the officers could deny intent. But the image wouldn't change. A soldier, a citizen, cuffed in plain sight, and the country was watching. Change doesn't begin with a speech. Sometimes it starts with a silence too loud to ignore. By Monday morning, the signs had bloomed like wildfire. Cuffed in uniform. Justice for Sergeant Thomas. Service shouldn't equal suspicion. Outside Maple Grove City Hall, the crowd gathered early. No bullhorns. No coordinated chants, just bodies standing shoulder to shoulder. Some in suits, some in hoodies, a few in fatigues. A quiet show of force. Students from the local high school came with handmade posters. Veterans brought their old jackets, patches still intact. A church group handed out coffee. The message was clear. We're watching. Inside a nearby classroom, the footage was paused on a projector screen. A government teacher pointed at the image. Janelle mid-sentence, hands visible, calm in the face of accusation. "Tell me what you see," she asked. Not just what happened, but why it happened, and why does it keep happening? The room was still. Then a voice. They didn't see a uniform. They saw a threat. Another. They didn't see a woman serving her country. They saw someone to control. In Reynoldsburg, a group of older veterans sat around a folding table in a VFW hall. Black, white, Latino. Quiet, seasoned faces watching the clip on a tablet screen. One of them sipped black coffee, shaking his head slowly. 15 years in, he muttered. Never thought I'd have to explain to my grandson that the uniform doesn't always protect you. At City Hall, the gears began to turn. A new protocol was quietly drafted. Mandatory military ID verification procedures. Immediate command notification if a service member is detained. Bias training. Renewed, required, repeated. A liaison role was created to bridge the gap between the police department and Fort Dixon Reserve. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was a start. In the precinct's break room, the atmosphere was tight. Conversations stopped when supervisors walked in. Eyes dropped when someone mentioned the gas station video. But amid the tension, something different happened. A young officer, more than a few years into the job, sent a message through the new liaison. It was addressed to Sergeant Janelle Thomas. I wasn't on shift that day, but I've watched the video 10 times. I saw how you held your ground, how you stayed calm. I'm sorry for how they treated you. I'll do better. Janelle read the message on her porch, the words still glowing on her phone screen. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just sat with it for a long moment, let it settle. Then she forwarded it to Colonel Ramsey. He replied in less than a minute. One word. Progress, not justice, not closure. Not healing, but movement, and for now, that was enough. Some battles leave no visible scars, but you carry the weight anyway. The uniform looked the same. Same olive drab stitching, same pressed creases, same name tag, straight this time. But when Janelle pulled it from the hanger that morning, it felt heavier. Not physically, emotionally. Like it had absorbed something the day she was cuffed, something she couldn't quite shake loose. She didn't wear it for glory. She never had. It was about discipline, purpose, service. Now it was also a reminder that for some, even this wasn't enough to be believed. At the local grocery store, she moved quietly down the cereal aisle. She could feel the eyes before she heard the whispers. That's her, the one from the video. Some spoke with admiration. Others didn't. A man in a flannel jacket stared a little too long. A woman near the frozen section nudged her husband. She stirred the pot too hard, she muttered, not bothering to lower her voice. Janelle didn't react. She kept walking. She wasn't here to be a symbol. She just needed oat milk and Tylenol. Near the pharmacy counter, a familiar voice called softly, "Sergeant Thomas?" Janelle turned. It was the nurse from the gas station, the woman in scrubs who had shouted across the parking lot. Her name tag now said Patrice Holloway. "I never got the chance to say thank you," Patrice said. "You don't have to," Janelle replied. Patrice stepped closer, her voice lower, steadier. "I just want you to know, you weren't alone that day. I saw it. I got it all on my phone, and I wasn't going to let them pretend it didn't happen." For the first time in days, Janelle's shoulders softened. "Thanks," she said quietly. "That matters." Later that night, after dinner, Janelle found an envelope slid under her front door. No stamp. No return address. Just folded paper. Intentional. Careful. Inside, a handwritten letter. "Sergeant Thomas, my name is Darla Reynolds. I'm 19. I just enlisted in the Army Reserve. I saw the video. I've watched it at least 6 times. I've always worried that I wouldn't belong, that people wouldn't see me as a real soldier. But watching you, calm, proud, strong, I knew I could do this. You didn't back down. You didn't have to yell. You just stood your ground. Thank you for wearing that uniform and not letting them strip it from you." Janelle sat on the edge of her bed, the letter open in her hands. She didn't move for a long time. She hadn't asked to inspire anyone. She didn't want a spotlight. She just didn't want to be humiliated and dismissed, not for serving, not for existing. And maybe that's what real strength looked like. Not the kind that broke doors down, but the kind that held its ground when everything tried to erase it. Outside, the street was quiet. Inside, Janelle finally let herself exhale. Not because it was over, but because she knew she'd done the one thing that mattered most. She didn't let them make her small. Inside the precinct's training room, the screen flickered to life. A muted classroom, rows of young officers in pressed uniforms, eyes forward. Shoulders tight. The video opened without warning, grainy body cam footage, no narration. Janelle Thomas, standing beside her car, calmly holding out 2 forms of ID. Her voice steady, the cuffs clicking closed. Then, a still image of her name tag, Thomas, crooked against the fabric, caught between the moments of dignity and doubt. Below it, the words, "This is what failure looks like. Don't repeat it." The department's new policy was brief but precise. Mandatory verification of all military identification. Immediate command contact upon detention of any service member. Chaeto, biannual bias recertification for all patrol officers. A new position was created, Community Military Liaison Officer, tasked with bridging conversations between Fort Dixon Reserve and the Maple Grove Police Department. It didn't make headlines. It wasn't designed to. In a quiet study lined with books and framed commendations, Janelle sat at her desk, writing by hand. Her script was small, intentional, and almost Spartan. Each letter tight against the page, as if respect could be measured in ink. She didn't write for the cameras. She didn't post for clicks. She responded to every service member who'd reached out. Some were new recruits. Some, like Darla Reynolds, were just trying to find their place. Others were older, burned out, disillusioned, still haunted by moments when the uniform didn't shield them either. You carry more than equipment when you wear this. You carry perception, assumption, resistance. But you also carry the power to hold your ground without shouting, without bending. Stay steady, stay seen. Each letter was personal, each one a ripple. And slowly, they added up. In locker rooms, officers spoke quietly now. They looked twice before acting once. In city council meetings, officials asked harder questions during police reviews. In classrooms, students wrote essays about power, perception, and restraint. And in living rooms, families who'd never thought much about military service outside of parades or holidays now sat with the story of a black woman who followed every rule, and still ended up in cuffs. Not because of what she did, but because of what they refused to see. Colonel Ramsey stopped by 2 weeks later. He brought barbecue and silence, the way older soldiers often did. They sat on Janelle's porch as the sky dimmed, ribs in hand, nothing urgent in the air. After a while, he leaned back, tapping the edge of his plate. "You didn't panic, didn't yell, you let them show the world who they were. That's why they lost." Janelle nodded once. "They'll try it again, somewhere else." Ramsey set his fork down. "Maybe, but the difference now is people are watching." And that, she knew, was the first crack in any system, not a viral moment. Not a trending tag, but eyes that refused to look away. The screen fades from the image of Janelle's name patch, now straight, now clean, to a still shot of her Subaru, parked in the same spot at the gas station. But now it's quiet. No crowd, no flashing lights. Just her, standing, whole, unmoved. The narration begins, low, steady, intimate, like someone telling you the truth they're tired of repeating. This wasn't about one woman. Not one uniform, and not one mistake. Cut to the moment the cuffs click shut. A black woman in service gear, eyes forward, silent, but not broken. It was about what happens when dignity meets disbelief and refuses to back down. A montage follows. The nurse was yelling across the parking lot. The crowd was growing, phones raised. Colonel Ramsey was gripping his steering wheel, phone on speaker. Shaw, the lieutenant, uncuffed her. Janelle's quiet defiance. "You're not sorry, you're just caught." It was about the uniform that didn't protect her, but the discipline that did. We see the classroom. Students are watching the footage, veterans holding candles. The letter from a 19-year-old recruit was penned with shaky handwriting and real conviction. It was about silence being broken at the exact right moment, not with rage, but with resolve. The footage shifts to her porch. The envelope. The line of text. "You gave me courage." A pause. Then the black screen. White text fades in. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Speak it. Most importantly, subscribe to Injustice Unmasked for more stories that reveal the truth others hide. Janelle was walking down a quiet street. No camera crew, no press. Just her, still in uniform, still standing,